Hey, I hope everybody's having a good Friday and you're looking forward to the weekend. I just finished reading through and grading your worksheets from last week, so you should be able to see those in Blackboard. And I hope you'll look through those as you move on to your literature review worksheet so that if you have any questions, maybe I've addressed them in the comments there. That'll be helpful. Two things that I thought I saw enough times that I thought they would be useful for the whole class were one, to say that when we talk about what databases you're using, the Sacred Heart Library as a whole is not a database. It's a sort of a one place that you go to view a whole bunch of databases. So when we talk about focusing on a specific database, we're talking about looking at specific databases within the Sacred Heart Library. So, for example, they have two that have the vast majority of the social work literature you can find in social work abstracts and you can find in Soc Index. They also have a psychology database, PsycNet, that has a lot of social work related stuff. Those of you who are interested in criminal justice will probably want to use the criminal justice database. There's an econ lit database that might be useful for those of you who are interested in things that have a financial connection to them. And there's a couple of different education databases for those of you who are interested in interventions that happen within schools. So what I want you to do is to really focus in on the databases that are most relevant to what you're doing so that you'll be able to find good peer-reviewed data that connects with what you want. The other thing I wanted to highlight is that when you're looking for articles for this particular lit review, this is a literature review that focuses on what the empirical literature tells us. So what does that mean? What that means is we want to, in this literature review, talk about articles that are either primary data collection or secondary data collection. An article with primary data collection is one in which they collected the data themselves and they're reporting on it. So if I do a study and I interview 10 people and I tell you about it, that's primary data collection. Secondary data analysis is when I take a data set that somebody else collected and I do my own analysis and I tell you about it. So for example, if the federal government has collected statistics about reporting of crime and I take those statistics from the federal government, I do an analysis of those and I report them. That's secondary data analysis. Either of those are totally fine for the purposes of this paper. And any type of data collection is fine. So qualitative, quantitative, so focus groups, interviews, surveys, clinical experiments, any of that is totally fine. What you don't want are people who just talk about theories or concepts or sort of the history of an issue. Not that those things aren't important, but in this particular paper, we're really focusing in on answering the question that you asked and what does the empirical literature, what does the evidence base tell us about that question. So those are the areas I really want you to focus for this lit review worksheet and for this lit review assignment in general. And I hope that's helpful. I also, a few of you talked a little bit about how to narrow down the stuff that you found. You definitely want to make sure that you're sticking with peer-reviewed literature for this. There may be some situations in which you can use government reports for it, but for the most part, this is going to be about peer-reviewed literature. And I also would stay, when at all possible, within the last 10 years. And if you can get more recent than that, that would be great. Because we don't want to talk about what we knew about substance use 20 years ago, right? We want to know what we know about substance use as close to today as possible. So I hope that's helpful. As you're working on this assignment, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I will be reading through those review worksheets as they come in. Several of you have already turned in your city training, your human subjects training, which is wonderful, fantastic. Thank you for staying on top of that. If you haven't done it yet, it's not due until next week, but put it on your radar screen because you do want to make sure that you take the time to do it. And otherwise, I hope you have a great weekend, and we will start a new week on Monday. And if you need anything, let me know. Otherwise, I will talk to you on Monday. All right, bye-bye.